The fluorescent lights in Jefferson Community Center flickered as Lily Rodriguez pushed through the heavy double doors, her violin case bumping against her hip. She was 20 minutes early, which was typical for her. Being late made her anxious, and she already had enough of that swirling in her stomach. The main hall smelled like old wood polish, and the faint mustiness that seemed to live in every community building. A handful of people scattered around the space, some stretching, others humming scales, a few tapping on their phones. Lily spotted the registration table near the stage and made her way over, trying not to make eye contact with anyone. Name? The woman behind the table didn't look up from her clipboard. She had reading glasses perched on her nose and was chewing gum loudly. Lily Rodriguez. I signed up last week for the violin slot. The woman ran her finger down the list, stopping about 2/3 of the way down. Ah, here you are. You're number 17. We've got you down for 3 minutes. That work for you? 3 minutes? Lily nodded. That was more than enough. Maybe even too much. Yes, that's fine. Great. Rehearsal slots are posted on that board over there. You're up at 2:30. Show starts at 7 tonight, so be back here by 6 for sound check. The woman handed her a small paper with the number 17, written in thick marker. Pin this somewhere visible so we know who's who. Lily took the paper and found a seat in the back row of folding chairs. She set her violin case on her lap and stared at the worn leather handle. Her hands were already starting to sweat. This was a mistake. What was she thinking, agreeing to this? But she knew exactly what she was thinking. Or rather, she knew who had convinced her. 3 weeks ago, she'd been teaching her after-school music class at Riverside Elementary. It wasn't much, just an hour twice a week with whatever kids showed up. The school couldn't afford a real music program, so Lily volunteered her time. She loved those kids, even on the chaotic days when half of them forgot their recorders and the other half wanted to talk about cartoons instead of learning notes. That particular afternoon, she'd been demonstrating how to hold a violin properly. Little Tommy Nguyen, a 3rd grader with a gap-toothed smile, had asked her to play something real. Not the simple teaching scales she usually demonstrated, but actual music. She should have said no. She should have stuck to the lesson plan, but something in his eager face made her pause. Before she could overthink it, she'd lifted the violin to her chin and played a short piece. Nothing fancy, just a melody that had been stuck in her head, but she'd played it the way she used to play years ago when music was everything to her. The classroom had gone completely silent. Even the kids who never paid attention stopped fidgeting. When she finished, there was this strange moment where nobody moved. Then they erupted, clapping and shouting and asking her to play more. Miss Rodriguez, that was so cool. Tommy had jumped up from his seat. Why don't you play like that all the time? You should be famous. She'd laughed it off, feeling her cheeks burn. I'm just a teacher, Tommy, that's enough for me. But the kids wouldn't let it go. The next week, they'd brought her a printed flyer for the community talent show. Someone had circled the registration information in red marker. They'd all signed their names at the bottom with messages like, please do it. And you're the best. One kid had drawn a stick figure playing a violin with stars all around it. How could she say no to that? So here she was, sitting in a community center on a Saturday afternoon, wondering if she'd made a terrible decision. Lily glanced around the room. The other performers looked confident, chatting easily with each other. A woman in a sparkly dance outfit was doing stretches that looked physically impossible. 2 teenage boys were beatboxing in the corner, creating complex rhythms that echoed off the walls. Everyone seemed to belong here except her. She unclipped the latches on her violin case. The instrument inside looked as nervous as she felt, if that was possible. It was old, not fancy. The varnish had worn thin in places where her chin had rested thousands of times. There was a small crack near the bridge that a repair shop said would cost more to fix than the violin was worth. But this violin had history. It had been with her through everything. The good years and the terrible ones. The dreams and the nightmares. First time doing one of these? Lily looked up. A man probably in his 60s had sat down 2 chairs away. He had a guitar case resting against his knee and a friendly smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Is it that obvious? Lily asked. Only because you've been staring at that violin case like it might explode. He chuckled. I'm Robert, by the way. I do these talent shows all over the county. They're fun once you get past the nerves. Lily. And I'm not sure I can get past the nerves. They might be permanent. Robert laughed, a warm sound that made her relax slightly. You play violin, I take it? I teach music to elementary kids. This is their idea, actually. They kind of pushed me into signing up. Kids are great for that. They see something in us we can't see ourselves sometimes. He adjusted his guitar case. You been playing long? Lily hesitated. How did she answer that? She'd been playing since she was 6 years old. By the time she was 16, she'd won regional competitions and had been told she had real potential. By 18, she'd been accepted to one of the best music schools in the country. By 19, she'd walked away from all of it. A while, she finally said, but just for fun now. Nothing serious. Robert nodded like he understood something she hadn't said. Well, the best performances are the ones where we're playing for the right reasons. Sounds like you've got some good reasons with those kids cheering you on. Before Lily could respond, the woman with the clipboard stood up and clapped her hands. Okay, everyone. Let's start running through the rehearsal slots. When your number is called, come up and give us a quick run-through. Nothing fancy, just so we can check sound levels and timing. The afternoon crept by. Lily watched performer after performer take the stage. Some were polished and professional. Others were enthusiastic but rough around the edges. Everyone got supportive applause from the others waiting their turn. When number 17 was called, Lily's legs felt like they might not hold her weight. She walked to the stage, each step feeling both too fast and too slow. The stage was smaller than she'd imagined, just a raised platform with some basic lights. A microphone stand stood at the center and someone had set up a stool to the side. What you playing for us? The sound technician called from somewhere in the back of the room. Lily lifted her violin to her shoulder, feeling the familiar weight settle against her collarbone. Just a simple piece. Something short. Sounds good. Go ahead whenever you're ready. She closed her eyes, drew in a breath, lifted the bow, and played the safest, most forgettable piece she could think of. A simple melody she'd taught her students just last week. Pleasant, harmless, exactly 3 minutes long. When she finished, there was polite applause. The sound tech gave her a thumbs up. Perfect. See you tonight at 6. Lily walked off the stage feeling both relieved and oddly disappointed. This was fine. This was safe. Tonight she'd play the same simple piece. Her students would be proud and then everything could go back to normal. As she packed up her violin, Robert caught her eye and gave her a knowing look. She couldn't quite read his expression, but something about it made her stomach flip. She had no idea that in just a few hours, everything she thought she knew about playing it safe was about to shatter completely. Lily sat in her car in the community center parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel even though the engine was off. She had 3 hours before she needed to be back for the show. 3 hours to calm her nerves, eat something, maybe practice one more time. Instead, she just sat there staring at the violin case in the passenger seat. Why was this so hard? It was just a little community talent show. Most of the audience would be family members scrolling through their phones, waiting for their own kid or friend to perform. Nobody would remember her performance by tomorrow morning. It didn't matter, but that was the problem. It did matter. More than she wanted to admit, she pulled out her phone and opened her photos. She scrolled back, way back, past recent pictures of her students and selfies with friends, past last year's vacation, past 2 years ago, 3 years, 5. There. She stopped on a photo from 10 years ago. A younger version of herself smiled at the camera, holding a certificate. Her hair was longer then, pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a black dress, the kind you wore to competitions, the kind that said you were serious about music. Behind her, slightly out of focus, was a banner that read, Regional Youth Orchestra Competition, First Place. She'd been 18 in that photo. The world had felt limitless. Lily zoomed in on her own face. That girl looked confident, excited, like she knew exactly where she was going and couldn't wait to get there. That girl had practiced 6 hours a day and loved every minute of it. That girl had dreamed of concert halls and standing ovations and making music that moved people to tears. That girl had no idea what was coming. She swiped to the next photo. This one showed an acceptance letter, slightly crumpled because she'd held it so many times. The letterhead read Juilliard School. The most prestigious music school in the country had wanted her. Full scholarship. They'd called her a prodigy in the acceptance letter. Said her audition tape showed exceptional emotional depth and technical mastery. Her mother had cried when they got that letter. Happy tears, proud tears. They'd celebrated with her favorite meal, and her mother had called everyone they knew. Lily Rodriguez was going to Juilliard. The girl from the small apartment with the second-hand violin was going to study with the best. Lily locked her phone and tossed it on the dashboard. She didn't need to see the rest. She knew what came next because she'd lived it. Because she still woke up sometimes with the memory so vivid it felt like yesterday. The final scholarship audition had been in a beautiful hall in New York. She'd taken a bus there, unable to afford a plane ticket. Her mother had wanted to come, but they couldn't afford 2 tickets, so Lily had gone alone. She remembered thinking it was fine. She was 18, an adult. She could handle this. The waiting room had been full of other violinists, all talented, all desperate for those scholarship spots. She'd tried not to look at them, tried to stay in her own head and focus on her piece. She'd chosen something ambitious, something that would show her range. Her teacher had worried it was too risky, but Lily had been confident until her name was called. She'd walked into that audition room and everything had changed. The panel of judges sat behind a long table, their faces neutral and professional. The room was bigger than she'd expected, with high ceilings that made her feel small. There was a single chair in the center, a music stand, and a bright spotlight that made everything else fade into shadows. She'd sat down, arranged her music, lifted her violin, and then her hands started shaking. It wasn't a little tremor. Her entire body seemed to vibrate. Her bow slipped in her grip. The violin felt impossibly heavy. Her chest tightened and she couldn't catch her breath. The room tilted slightly and she thought she might pass out. "Whenever you're ready," one of the judges had said, his voice kind but expectant. She'd tried. She'd put the bow to the strings and attempted the first note. It came out like a screech, harsh and wrong. She'd stopped. Tried again, worse. The judges waited, patient at first, then uncomfortable. Lily had lasted maybe 2 minutes before she'd stopped completely, tears streaming down her face. She'd apologized, stammered something about being nervous, asked if she could start over. They'd been kind about it. Told her it was okay, that audition nerves happen to everyone. They'd given her a few minutes to compose herself. She'd tried again, same result, shaking hands, missed notes. The melody she'd practiced 10,000 times came out broken and ugly. Finally, the head judge had stopped her gently. "Perhaps you'd like to reschedule? Sometimes these things happen. You can come back next week." But Lily had known the truth in that moment. Something inside her had broken. She could feel it like a string snapping. She'd thanked them and walked out, leaving her dream bleeding on the floor of that audition room. She never rescheduled. She never went back. The scholarship offer was quietly withdrawn. Her spot went to someone else. She'd told her mother that she'd changed her mind about Juilliard, that she wanted to do something more practical. Her mother had been confused, hurt even, but Lily had stuck to the lie. She couldn't explain what had happened, couldn't put words to the way her own body had betrayed her. How could you admit that you'd failed not because you weren't good enough, but because you'd been too terrified to even try? A knock on her car window made Lily jump. Robert, the friendly guitar player from earlier, waved at her. She rolled down the window. "You okay?" he asked. "You've been sitting here for 20 minutes. Had it been that long?" Lily wiped her eyes quickly, hoping he wouldn't notice they were wet. "Yeah, just thinking about tonight." Robert leaned against her car, his guitar case resting by his feet. "Can I tell you something? I've been doing these shows for 15 years. You know what I've learned?" Lily shook her head. "The people who are the most nervous are usually the ones with the most to share, the ones who've been through something real. That fear, it means what you're doing matters to you." He smiled. "The folks who breeze through without a care, their performances are usually forgettable. But the ones who are shaking in their boots, those are the performances people remember." "I'm not sure that makes me feel better," Lily said, but she smiled a little. "Fair enough." Robert picked up his guitar case. "See you tonight. And hey, those kids of yours, they'll be proud no matter what. That's worth showing up for." He walked away, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts again. She looked at her violin case. 10 years. She'd been running from that audition for 10 years. Teaching music instead of making it. Playing simple songs instead of challenging herself. Hiding behind the excuse that she was content with small moments. But her students had seen something in her. When she'd played that day in class, really played, they'd reacted with pure joy. They hadn't cared about technique or perfection. They just felt something real, Maybe that was enough. Maybe tonight didn't have to be about proving anything or fixing the past. Maybe it could just be about playing for people who believed in her. Lily started her car and drove home. She had a few hours to rest, to eat, to prepare. She'd play her safe piece tonight. Keep her promise to the kids. Get through this without falling apart. At least that was the plan. But somewhere in the back of her mind, a different melody was starting to form. Something she'd written years ago in the dark months after she'd given up on Juilliard. A piece she'd never played for anyone because it felt too raw, too honest. She pushed the thought away. Tonight was about playing it safe. That was the smart choice, the only choice. She hoped she could stick to it. By 6 o'clock, the community center had transformed. The empty hall from the afternoon was now filled with rows of chairs, most of them already occupied. Families clustered together, kids bouncing with excitement, parents checking their phones and chatting. The smell of popcorn drifted from a table near the entrance where someone was selling snacks for $2. Lily stood backstage, peeking through a gap in the curtain. The space was crowded with performers, everyone warming up or doing last-minute checks. The teenage beatboxers were practicing quietly in a corner. The woman in the sparkly dance outfit was touching up her makeup. Robert gave her a wave from across the room, his guitar already in hand. "Miss Rodriguez." Lily turned to see Tommy running toward her, his parents trailing behind. He wore a button-up shirt that was clearly too big for him, probably borrowed from an older brother. His hair was combed neatly and he had the biggest smile on his face. "You came." Lily knelt down to his level. "Of course we came. We all came." Tommy pointed toward the audience. "Look," Lily followed his finger. There in the third row sat her entire music class. Well, most of them. At least 15 kids, all waving frantically when they saw her looking. Some held homemade signs. One said, "Go Miss Rodriguez," with glitter glued around the edges. Another had a drawing of a violin with musical notes floating around it. Her throat tightened. "You guys didn't have to do this. Are you kidding?" Tommy's mom stepped forward. "Tommy hasn't stopped talking about this for 3 weeks. He told everyone at his soccer practice. I think half the team is here too. We're so excited to hear you play," Tommy's dad added. "Tommy says you're amazing." The announcement crackled over the speakers. "Performers, please check in with stage management. We'll be starting in 10 minutes. Tommy gave her a quick hug before his parents led him away. "You've got this, Miss Rodriguez. Play the way you played for us that day." Lily watched them disappear into the audience, her heart hammering. The way she played that day. From the heart, without fear. But that was in a classroom with kids who loved her no matter what. This was different. This was a stage, an audience, all the things that had destroyed her before. She found a quiet corner and opened her violin case. The instrument looked back at her, familiar and patient. She'd planned this so carefully. 3 minutes. A simple, pretty melody, safe. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "I'm here, mija. 4th row on the left. So proud of you." Lily's eyes burned. Her mother had taken the bus across town after working a double shift at the hospital. She'd come even though Lily had told her it wasn't a big deal, that she didn't need to make the trip. Another text came through, this one from her old high school music teacher. "Heard you're performing tonight. Wish I could be there. Remember what I always told you. Music isn't about perfect notes. It's about honest ones." Break a leg. The house lights dimmed. The buzz of conversation died down. The show was starting. Lily watched from backstage as performer after performer took their turn. A little girl sang a Disney song slightly off-key but with pure joy. A man did a comedy routine that got decent laughs. The teenage boys did their beatboxing and the crowd went wild. The sparkly dancer received a standing ovation. Everyone was good. Everyone was trying their best. Everyone was having fun. And Lily felt her carefully constructed plan starting to crack. Number 17 was called sooner than she expected. Suddenly she was walking toward the stage, violin in hand, legs moving on autopilot. The stage lights were bright, just like that audition room 10 years ago. Her hands started to tingle. "Not now. Please not now." She stepped into the spotlight. The audience was just shadows beyond the lights, but she could feel them watching, waiting. She found her students in the 3rd row, their faces bright with anticipation. Her mother in the 4th row, hands clasped together. The MC, a cheerful woman in a red dress, spoke into the microphone. "Next up, we have Lily Rodriguez, a music teacher here in our community. Let's give her a warm welcome." Applause rippled through the room. Lily lifted her violin to her shoulder, feeling the familiar weight. She'd done this 1,000,000 times. She could do it again. She positioned her bow, took a breath, started the simple melody she'd planned. The notes came out clean and pretty, exactly as she'd practiced. Pleasant background music, the kind of thing you'd hear in an elevator or a waiting room. Safe, forgettable. She was about 30 seconds in when she saw Tommy's face. He was leaning forward in his seat, listening intently, but there was something in his expression. Not disappointment exactly, but confusion. Like he was waiting for something more. This wasn't the playing that had made her students go silent. This wasn't the music that had made them bring her that flyer with all their signatures. This was the music she hid behind. Her bow wavered slightly. She was supposed to keep going for 3 minutes. That was the plan. Stick to the plan. But her fingers moved to a different position on the strings. The melody shifted, deepening into something else, something that had been locked inside her for 10 years. It wasn't a conscious decision. Her hands just knew what to do. The simple melody transformed into the piece she'd written after the failed audition. The one she'd composed in her tiny apartment while ugly crying at 3 in the morning. The one she'd played only for herself in private, when the pain of giving up her dreams felt too heavy to carry alone. This wasn't pretty music. It was raw. It started quiet, almost fragile, like a whispered confession. Then it built slowly, the notes climbing and twisting. There was anger in it and grief. All the rage she'd felt at herself for falling apart. All the loss of what might have been. But there was something else too. Hope, maybe, or survival. The sound of someone picking themselves back up even when it would have been easier to stay down. Lily's eyes closed. She wasn't in the community center anymore. She wasn't anywhere. There was just the music and everything it carried. The judges who'd watched her fall apart. The scholarship letter she'd eventually thrown away. Her mother's confused hurt when she'd lied about changing her mind. All the years of telling herself she was fine teaching, that it was enough, that dreams were for other people. And underneath it all, the stubborn truth she'd tried to bury. She still loved this. Even after everything, she still loved making music more than almost anything. Her bow moved faster, the piece building to its climax. This was the part she'd never gotten quite right when she practiced alone. But now with an audience she couldn't see and nothing left to lose, it poured out of her. The violin sang and wept and raged and celebrated. She hit the final note and held it, letting it ring out until it faded into complete silence. For a moment, nothing happened. The silence stretched so long that panic started to creep back in. She'd messed up, gone way over her 3 minutes, played something weird and intense instead of the pleasant piece they'd expected. She opened her eyes, ready to apologize. The entire audience was on their feet. It took her a second to process what she was seeing. Everyone was standing. Not polite standing, but the kind where people jump up without thinking. The applause started like thunder, rolling through the room. Some people were wiping their eyes. Her students were screaming and jumping. Tommy was standing on his chair, clapping so hard his hands must have hurt. Her mother had both hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Robert, watching from the side of the stage, gave her a slow nod. His eyes said what his mouth didn't need to. I told you so. Lily stood there, bow still raised, not quite believing what was happening. She'd planned for polite applause and a quick exit. Instead, the ovation went on and on. The MC had to wave her hands to quiet everyone down so the show could continue. As Lily walked off stage, her legs shaking but holding her up, she realized something that made her want to laugh and cry at the same time. She'd been so afraid of failing again that she'd forgotten what it felt like to actually try. And trying, even with shaking hands and a racing heart, felt like coming home. Backstage was chaos. The moment Lily stepped behind the curtain, people swarmed her. Other performers congratulated her. The stage manager asked if she was okay because she'd gone way over her time limit, but said it with a smile that meant she wasn't actually in trouble. Someone handed her a bottle of water. Lily's hands were still shaking. She managed to put her violin back in its case, though it took 3 tries to get the latches closed. Her heart wouldn't slow down. That performance had felt like jumping off a cliff and she was still waiting to hit the ground. Lily! Her mother appeared, pushing through the small crowd. She grabbed Lily's face in both hands, studying her like she was looking for injuries. "Mija, what was that?" "Where did that come from?" "I don't know," Lily said, and it was the truth. "I was going to play the simple piece, and then I just didn't." Her mother pulled her into a fierce hug. "That was you. That was really you. I haven't seen you play like that since—" She pulled back, her eyes searching Lily's face. "Since before. They both knew what that meant. Before the audition. Before everything fell apart. Miss Rodriguez. Miss Rodriguez." Tommy squeezed through, his parents right behind him. He crashed into her with another hug, this one almost knocking her over. "That was incredible. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen. You made my mom cry." "Happy tears," Tommy's mom clarified, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "That was absolutely beautiful. I had no idea community talent shows could be like that." More of her students found their way backstage, each one talking over the others. They were all so excited, so proud. Lily felt tears threatening again. She'd done this for them because they'd believed in her. And somehow, in trying not to let them down, she'd found something she thought she'd lost forever. The rest of the show went by in a blur. Lily stayed backstage, too overwhelmed to sit in the audience. She could hear the other acts through the speakers, but her mind was elsewhere, replaying her performance over and over. Had she really just done that? In front of all those people? Robert found her after his own performance. "You surprised yourself tonight, didn't you?" Lily nodded, not trusting her voice. "Good. That's when the real music happens." He patted her shoulder. "By the way, several people were recording. Don't be shocked if you end up on social media." Her stomach dropped. "Recording? Like video? It's 2024, kiddo. Everyone records everything." He must have seen the panic on her face because he added, "Don't worry. That's a good thing. Trust me." After the show ended, Lily helped her mother to her car. The older woman was exhausted from her double shift, but she kept squeezing Lily's hand like she was afraid to let go. "You should come over for dinner this week," her mother said. "We should talk about this. About music. About everything we haven't talked about in 10 years. "Okay," Lily agreed quietly. "Yeah, we should." She watched her mother drive away, then sat in her own car for a long time. The parking lot slowly emptied. Other performers left, calling out goodbyes to each other. Eventually, she was alone under the streetlights. Her phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. And again, she pulled it out and stared at the screen. Notifications were piling up. Facebook tags. Instagram mentions. A text from a number she didn't recognize. She opened Facebook first. Someone named Jennifer Chen had tagged her in a video. The caption read, "This music teacher just blew everyone away at our local talent show. I've never heard anything like this." The video already had 300 views and it had only been posted 20 minutes ago. Lily watched herself on the small screen. The video quality wasn't great, a bit shaky, but the audio was clear enough. She watched herself start the simple melody, then saw the exact moment she switched to the other piece. Even on her phone, she could see the change in her posture, the way her entire body engaged differently. The comments were already rolling in. "Who is this woman and why isn't she famous? I got actual chills watching this. Incredible. This is what real music sounds like. Not that overproduced stuff on the radio." Her phone buzzed with a text. This one was from a name she recognized. Mr. Peterson, her high school music teacher. "Lily, someone sent me a video of your performance tonight. I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes. I always knew you had this in you. Please call me when you can. We should talk." Another buzz. This time an email. The subject line made her breath catch. From the desk of Dr. Rachel Martinez. Dr. Martinez had been her private instructor before Juilliard. The woman who'd written her recommendation letters. The one who'd been most disappointed when Lily had disappeared from the music world. Lily's finger hovered over the email. Did she really want to read this? Did she want to open that door again? She opened it. "Lily, I hope this email finds you well. A former student sent me a video of your performance tonight. I had to watch it 3 times to believe it was you. That raw emotion, that technical skill, that fearlessness in the performance, that's what I always knew you were capable of. I was heartbroken when you left music behind. I've thought about you often over the years, wondering where life took you. If you're interested, I would love to talk. I still teach, and I still have connections in the music world. More importantly, I'd just like to know how you've been. You don't owe me a response, but I hope you'll consider reaching out. Lily set her phone down. Her hands were shaking again, but this time not from fear, from something else. Possibility, maybe. Or hope. The video kept spreading. By the time she got home, it had over 2,000 views. Someone had posted it on Reddit. Another person had shared it on Twitter with the caption, "This is why arts education matters." Her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Hello? Is this Lily Rodriguez? The violinist from tonight's performance? The voice was professional, friendly. Yes, that's me. My name is David Park. I'm a reporter for the local arts and culture magazine. I'd love to do a feature on you. Your story, your teaching, that incredible performance. Would you be interested? I don't know. I need to think about it. Of course, I'll email you my information. No pressure. But I think people would really connect with your story. There's something special about what you did tonight. After she hung up, Lily sat on her couch, still in her concert clothes, and watched the video again and again. Each time she saw something different. The moment she made the choice to play the real piece. The way the audience leaned forward without realizing it. The standing ovation that went on way too long. But mostly, she saw her own face. The expression of someone finally being honest after years of hiding. More notifications came in throughout the night. Friends from high school reaching out. Former students from years ago saying they'd always known she was talented. People she'd never met sending messages of encouragement. By morning, the video had 50,000 views. Someone had shared it in a musician's forum, and professional violinists were analyzing her technique in the comments. Most were positive. Some criticized her interpretation, but they were all talking about her music. At 7 a.m., her phone rang again. This time, she recognized the number. The community arts center in the city, the one that hosted real concerts with professional musicians. Miss Rodriguez, this is Angela Torres from the Riverside Arts Center. We had someone on our staff at the talent show last night. We were so impressed by your performance that we'd like to extend an invitation. We're organizing a benefit concert for arts education in underserved schools next month. We'd be honored if you'd perform. It would be a small honorarium. Nothing huge, but it's a real concert venue. Professional sound system, marketed event, the works. Would you be interested? Lily stood up, phone pressed to her ear, looking out her window at the sunrise. 10 years ago, she'd walked away from stages like that. Convinced herself she wasn't strong enough for them. That she'd failed her one chance. But last night, on a small stage in a community center, she'd discovered something important. She hadn't been running from failure all these years. She'd been running from the vulnerability it took to be truly seen. And being seen, she was learning, wasn't as terrifying as she'd thought. Yes, she said. Yes, I'm interested. After she hung up, Lily picked up her violin. Not to practice, just to hold it. In the morning light, the worn varnish seemed to glow. This instrument had been patient with her, had waited for her to be ready. Her phone buzzed one more time. A text from Tommy. Everyone at school is going to know you're famous now. Can you still teach our music class? She smiled and typed back, Of course. I'll see you next week. Because that was the thing. This wasn't about leaving teaching behind or going back to her old dreams. This was about finding a way to do both. To be both the person who played from her heart and the person who helped kids discover their own voices. The video kept spreading. By afternoon, it had hit 100,000 views. A music blog picked it up. Then a larger news site. People shared it with captions like "Faith in Humanity Restored" and "This is why we need more arts funding." Lily's life was changing, minute by minute. And for the first time in 10 years, she wasn't afraid of where it might lead. The month between the community center performance and the benefit concert felt like living in two worlds at once. In one world, Lily was still the same music teacher, showing up twice a week to teach kids how to read notes and keep rhythm. In the other world, her video had been viewed over 2 million times, and strangers on the internet debated whether she should pursue a professional career. She tried not to read the comments anymore. Most were kind, but some hurt in ways she hadn't expected. Why did she waste 10 years teaching? One person wrote, "She could have been great by now, but they didn't understand." Those 10 years hadn't been wasted. They'd been necessary. On a Tuesday afternoon, 2 weeks before the concert, Lily sat in her classroom watching her students struggle through a simple song. Half of them were playing different notes. A few weren't even holding their instruments correctly. It was messy and chaotic and kind of terrible. It was also beautiful. Miss Rodriguez, a small girl named Sophie raised her hand. Can you play it for us first? So we know how it's supposed to sound. Lily picked up her violin and played the melody they were learning. Nothing fancy, just the notes written on the page. But she played it the way she'd learned to play everything now, with honesty and presence. When she finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then Tommy spoke up. You play everything like it matters, even the boring songs we're learning. That's because it does matter, Lily said. Every note matters, not because it has to be perfect, but because you're choosing to make it. That choice is what makes music real. Sophie tilted her head, thinking about this. Is that why you cried when you played at the talent show? Because it mattered. Lily had to smile. Kids never missed anything. Yeah, something like that. My dad showed me the video, another student chimed in. He said he didn't know music could make him feel things like that. He doesn't even like classical stuff usually. Music isn't about genre, Lily told them. It's about truth. When you play something true, people feel it. They might not know why, but they feel it. That evening, Lily met with Dr. Martinez at a small cafe downtown. Her former teacher looked exactly the same, maybe a few more gray hairs, but the same sharp eyes that seemed to see right through pretense. I'm not here to pressure you, Dr. Martinez said after they'd ordered coffee. I just wanted to see you, to understand what happened. So Lily told her the whole story. The panic attack at the audition, the 10 years of teaching, the fear that had kept her from stages. Dr. Martinez listened without interrupting, her expression thoughtful. You know what I think? Dr. Martinez said when Lily finished. I think you needed those 10 years. Not everyone's path is straight. Some of us have to break and rebuild before we can become who we're meant to be. Do you think I'm meant to be a professional musician? Lily asked, voicing the question that had kept her up at night. I think you're meant to be whatever lets you play like you did in that video. Whether that's teaching, performing, or some combination of both. That's for you to figure out. But Lily, promise me something. Don't hide again. The world needs musicians who play with that kind of honesty. The conversation stayed with Lily as the benefit concert approached. She practiced every day, but differently than she used to. She wasn't chasing perfection anymore. She was chasing truth. The night of the benefit concert arrived faster than she expected. The Riverside Arts Center was everything the community center wasn't. Professional lighting. Real backstage areas, a concert hall with actual acoustic design. The seats were filling up with people who'd paid real money to be there, many of them because they'd seen her video. No pressure or anything. Backstage, Lily paced in her black concert dress. This one was new, bought specifically for tonight because her old ones didn't fit anymore and felt like they belonged to someone else anyway. Her mother was in the audience, Dr. Martinez was there. Robert had driven across town to come. And somehow, bless them, Tommy and his parents had managed to get tickets. But there were also people she didn't know. Music critics, professional musicians, people who would judge her not as a community talent show participant, but as a serious artist. Her hand started to tingle. Not now. She couldn't fall apart now. 5 minutes, Miss Rodriguez. Lily closed her eyes and took a breath. Then another. She thought about that audition room 10 years ago. How she'd let fear win. She thought about her students playing their messy, imperfect, beautiful music. She thought about that moment at the community center when she'd decided to stop hiding. She picked up her violin and walked toward the stage. The lights were bright, but she could see faces in the first few rows. Her mother dabbing her eyes already. Tommy sitting on the edge of his seat. Robert giving her a thumbs up. The MC introduced her. Lily Rodriguez is a music teacher whose viral performance has reminded us all why arts education matters. Tonight she'll be playing an original composition, along with works by Vivaldi and Bach. Please welcome her to the stage. Applause filled the hall. Real concert hall applause, the kind that echoed off proper acoustics. Lily sat down, positioned her violin, and started with the piece she'd played at the community center. Her original composition, the one born from pain and survival. But something was different this time. The pain was still there in the music, but it wasn't the dominant voice anymore. There was something else woven through it. Gratitude maybe, or hope, the sound of someone who'd found their way back home after a long journey. She played for 20 minutes, moving through her prepared program. Some of it was technical and challenging, showing she could still execute difficult passages. Some of it was simple and emotional, reminding everyone that virtuosity without feeling was just noise. When she played the final note of her closing piece, she held it until it dissolved into silence. Then she lowered her bow and looked out at the audience. They were standing again. But this time Lily wasn't surprised. She wasn't overwhelmed. She simply accepted it as the natural response to sharing something real. The applause continued as she took her bow, as she walked off stage, as the MC returned to thank everyone for supporting arts education. Backstage, Lily was surrounded by people wanting to talk to her. Concert organizers, other musicians, people asking about future performances, someone from a music school asking if she'd consider doing workshops. Through the crowd, she saw her students being led backstage by one of the venue staff. They must have asked to come see her. Tommy reached her first, crashing into her with his usual enthusiasm. "Miss Rodriguez, that was even better than last time. Are you going to be too famous to teach us now?" Lily knelt down to his level. "Tommy, I'm never going to be too anything to teach you guys. That's my favorite part of all this." And she meant it. The performance high was real. The validation was nice, but nothing compared to seeing her students' faces light up when they finally got a difficult passage right. Nothing compared to knowing she was helping kids discover their own voices. "But you're going to do more concerts, right?" Sophie asked. "Because you're really good and people should hear you play." "I'm going to do some concerts," Lily agreed. "And I'm going to keep teaching. Both things can be true." Later, after the venue had cleared out and the excitement had faded, Lily sat in her car in the parking lot, just like she had a month ago, but everything felt different now. Her phone buzzed with messages. Invitations to perform, interview requests, but also messages from her students' parents saying thank you for inspiring their kids. Messages from other teachers asking how she balanced it all. She didn't have all the answers yet. She didn't know exactly what her life would look like a year from now. Would she still be teaching full-time? Would she perform regularly? Would she find some other path she hadn't even imagined? What she did know was this: she wasn't running anymore. From her past, from her fears, from her own potential. Whatever came next, she would face it with the same honesty she'd brought to that community center stage. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Dr. Martinez. "I always knew you'd find your way back. Not back to where you were, but forward to where you needed to be. Proud of you, Lily." Lily saved the message and started her car. She had an early morning tomorrow. Her students were performing their own small concert at school, and she'd promised them she'd be there. It wouldn't be fancy. It would be messy and imperfect and absolutely wonderful. As she drove home through the city lights, Lily thought about the girl who'd walked out of that audition room 10 years ago, broken and convinced she'd lost everything. If she could talk to that girl now, she'd tell her this: the breakdown wasn't the end of the story. It was just the middle. The painful, necessary middle that made the rest possible. She'd tell her that 10 years from now she'd play in a real concert hall again. But more importantly, she'd know why she was playing. Not to prove anything to anyone, not to chase some impossible standard of perfection, but to share something true with whoever was willing to listen. And sometimes that simple truth would be enough to move people to tears, to make them stand up and applaud, to make them believe in music again or maybe in themselves. The video of the community center performance was still making its rounds online. People still shared it with captions about unexpected talent and second chances. But Lily knew it wasn't really about any of that. It was about a music tee.